Welcome to another stock market update. Today is September 18, 2017. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. The market basically, continue where it left off from last Friday, and it just still continue to move up. And doesn't seem to indicate the top has been put in yet, because a lot of the market internal is still holding up fairly well. So there's no deterioration there to give us any sign to say that top is in. But we always be cautious about sudden pullback, because the market is a little bit kind of stretched and on the long side. So we have to be a little bit worrisome about those sudden sell-off. So let's take a look at the S&P 500 and get some idea where some of the levels are and what we should be paying attention to. You can see that the market finished off with another all-time high, and basically right now if there's any kind of pullback, I think the first level that we want to see potential support is this pivot here, this 2490.87. And if that cannot hold, then we're basically looking at this 2468, essentially this gap fill down here, and where there's a low gap fill. So those are the level that we're looking at, and then also this trend line. I think a lot of people basically be watching this trend line, but I'm more interested in this level here. Okay, and so we basically just have to keep an eye on that for these level of retracement. And if it was to continue to move up, we'll use a little bit of a Fibonacci retracement tool here. Let me set this up here. So let's go and take this swing, and let me put in the extension. Okay, so we see the 127 extension is 2510, so it's pretty close to 2511 up here, right, on the extension, and then the 161 is 2536. Not saying that it will just go right up there. We might see a little bit of a consolidation here before it pushes up, but those are levels that I would be keeping an eye on the upside. And on the downside is the 2490, basically 2491, and this 2468 area here on the S&P 500. And if we take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial, the Dow Jones Industrial is tagging this 127 extension already. It's up here at the 22,336, and it closed at 331 here. So and it did tag that it went above that 127 extension. The intraday high is 22,355.62. So again, we're basically looking at a potential retracement down here to this possibly 22,179 or this 21,991, and essentially also this gap fill here, right? This gap fill here. So that's the another area that we want to pay attention to. This 21,846.60. Okay. Now the transportation, again the Dow Jones Industrial closed at an all-time high. The Dow Jones Transportation is still lagging. The all-time high is up here, the closing high. So it's still got a little bit distant to catch up. And although last week we were talking about this this pivot high here, essentially want to see would it be able to get up above this pivot high. And if it could get above this pivot high, then it could be working toward the all-time high here. So right now it's still bumping up against that pivot high as resistant. And now on the NASDAQ 100, we start seeing some weakness on the FANG stock. So that's kind of dragging it a little bit, or kind of holding back a little bit, because the NASDAQ 100 did not finish with an all-time high. Today did not close at an all-time high. Matter of fact, it pulled back a bit, and sitting at close to this 5980.15. Okay, so it closed at 5981.12. So we're going to see what be able to push above this high here, the all-time high. The all-time closing high is 6,004.38. So if it can't do that, continued weakness, then we probably be looking at this 5,890.25 area here. Maybe get a little bit of pullback and possibly into this trend line here. Okay, so that's for the Nasdaq 100 and the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 is coming back up fairly strongly. Wouldn't be surprised that it's going to come up and maybe test its all-time high up here at this 1,452 area. So kind of keep an eye on that. And again, these level below the close here is potential support level. So in any kind of pullback, we'll be looking at 1425 and 1412 area. Particularly this particular level here, 1393.90, basically 1394. Okay, because that will get close to the lower channel trend line here. Okay, so you kind of keep an eye on that. So right now, today, the Dow Jones Industrial, the S&P 500, and the New York Exchange Composite finished at an all-time high. So that's kind of give you an indication that seems like money is moving into the large cap, blue chip type of stock here. Okay, although the Russell is coming up, so there is a little bit of a risk on. Okay, and that might be the retail investors kind of being lured back in from this recent all-time high on the local news. So we'll see. So let's take a look at the SPDR, the ETF. And on the SPDR here, we see that this is a little bit of a spinning top. But again, it also closed at a new all-time high. And this chart here is dividend adjusted. So we see that it's sitting at 249.72. And again, if we use the Fibonacci retracement tool, just to get some idea of where the potential upside levels are. Let me get this in there. Okay, so you can see that it's tagged the 127 extension at 249.76. So it closed at 249.72 today. So the next level up at the 161 is 252.21. Although we could put in the 141 extension and see what that is. Let me put that in. 141. Okay, so that's 250.76, so it's a point away. Okay, so we'll see, but if there's any kind of pullback, we'll be looking at this 247.83, essentially this pivot high, and possibly come down, fill this gap, and get down to this 244.95. Okay, and here's the Q. Looking at the Q, you see the Q is pulling back. So the next level of potential support that we're looking at is 143.60, and then possibly down here 140.18. So the resistance will be essentially the all-time high up here, the closing high, so 146.42. And looking at the Russell 2000, the IWM. So the IWM will be monitoring this level 144-ish. Right, this closing high somewhere in here, 144.05 to the intraday high of 144.25. Okay, if we come back down, then we're basically looking at this particular pivot here at this 138.58. Okay, so those are the indexes, and let's take a quick look at some of the momentum stocks, starting with Apple. See, Apple is pulling back ever since the event day. This is the iPhone 8 event. And it pulled back as we sort of speculated that usually with Apple announcing product releases, they run it up and then they sell it off. And but right now we're looking for this gap to hold, to basically get this gap filled and possibly get a little bit bounce back. If it doesn't, then I'll be looking for this 156 area, this 155.32 down to this 153. Okay, so basically looking at this gap here. So we want to see would it be able to fill this gap and get a bounce off and move it back up to this 160 area and possibly get back up to that 164 and 165, the all-time high. But with the pullback that we might anticipating in the near future from the Q and also from the SPY, so we might see a little bit more downside on the Apple before it go back up. So we could see maybe dip down to this close to this 155 area and then get a bounce off of there. Okay, so and looking at Facebook, you can see Facebook is also kind of pulling back a little bit because we're looking at this pivot level here for it to we're saying that if it could get above this pivot, see here, get above this this pivot level here, then we'll be basically looking at it to come up and try to test this all-time high. So you can see that it came up but wasn't able to have much of a follow-through and pull back and getting back to this support zone here. So we want to see would it be able to hold this support and then get a little bit of a bounce back. If it's not, then we're basically looking for this thing to come down to this 165.17. Okay. And then on Netflix is the only one from the FANG stock, the FAANG, right? Those stock is basically Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Okay, those Apple and Amazon is the AA. Okay, so you see Netflix still holding this resistance level here. So it's been bouncing around for quite a few days now. So we're going to see, keep monitoring it to see would it be able to break through and then work itself back up to the all-time high. But you can see that we got a few bearish candle here. So this might be, although it's not the ideal what they call it, three dot crow or whatever they call that. And but the thing is, if tomorrow pull back and get below today's low, the chances are we probably will see it maybe pull back to this 177 and test this level before it get a little bit of a bounce here. Okay. So, but if it pushes through, then there's a good chance this thing is just going to go up and try to test the all-time high. Okay. And here's Amazon. Amazon was saying that it's coming up to this resistance level and that could be bumpy. And as you can see, that just unable to get have any follow through to get above that and move up to possibly get up to this pivot and fill this gap. So right now it seems like you want to come back and retest this 953 area. So we just kind of keep an eye on that to see would it be able to get a bounce off with this 953-ish area here. And then Google is pulling back, and we're basically looking for this thing to come back down to this 918.60 area, okay, because just unable to get up to get above this 958.33. And Tesla is really having a strong run recently, and went tag a new all-time high on the intraday, and it did close with a new closing high today. So there's certainly a lot of momentum behind Tesla right now. So we're going to see would it be able to continue to move up, and if it's not, then we're basically looking for this thing to pull back to this 370, this pivot here for potential Tesla support. Then let's go to Twitter. Twitter got up to this level here, 1850, close to it. It's basically one of the high volume node. And right now it's kind of pulling back, so it seems to be maybe holding this particular pivot here, but definitely we need to see it hold this 1370 support. If it can't hold this support here, then we are likely to see it come back down and retest this 1650 area. So here right now it's kind of sitting on this pivot here. So we want to see would it be able to get a little bit of a bounce and bounce back up, because what we'd like to see if it could get above this this pivot high here we're essentially looking for this this gap to get filled, and then eventually get up here and fill this gap. Okay, and if it could do this, fill this gap here, then there's a good chance that we might see this thing to come back up above this, near this 21 level. And looking at gold, GLD. Okay, gold is kind of getting interesting. It is pulling back to this support area. So a couple of the support level here, right? So you got this pivot support, and then there's a little bit of a support area as well over here. So we're going to be looking for any type of setup for long, because on gold you basically have to, well, at least in my view, is that I'm looking at this thing on a macro basis. So it's not one of those quick couple day or week or so trade, but it's more of a macro play based on what I perceive some of the uncertainty floating around globally, and also macroly, in a macro basis, because I think there's a lot of fear that is being pushed around. People haven't priced those things in yet, and I think people are going to be jumping into gold when that occurs. And I think the smart money is probably dipping their hand in already. So I'd be looking at setting up some of these positions. And just a disclosure, I do have some long call spread on the GLD. And those are long dated call spread. So we'll see if it give me an additional setup. I basically will probably add to that position. So we'll see how that play out. Okay, and then looking at the financial, because the FOMC meeting this week, so we're gonna have a announcement. Most likely we won't get a rate hike this time around, but I think the market will be looking at the announcement to see is there any clue to say there is at least one more rate hike before the end of the 2017 or something. So basically the market is looking for clues. And I think the financial, especially the bank, maybe they're pricing in, the market is pricing in a little bit for another rate hike, but I'm not too certain about that. I think this might be a fake out here, but you see that Bank of America had a very nice day. It was up 1.27%. So we'll see, would it be able to get back up above these level here, this 25-ish level. Okay, just because it came off on its bounce here at this level down here, doesn't mean that things have changed, because I think we basically need to see get above this this area here. Basically have to move away from this trading range, because you could also see this another range here. Okay. So it could come up and come back down, with the disappointment if the Fed doesn't announce any rate hike. And same with, Goldman Sachs. You see Goldman Sachs just came up, tagged this, this area here, and it just, look at this shooting star come way back down and sold off. So essentially we are looking at, this right here, pretty much. And it might run up here and still, until it break this this pivot and work itself up here. I think the financial is still just a lot of hope, right? Because you can see here's the let's see right here. Okay, so this thing could very easily break down and come back down here. Okay. Dip below that 200 level. All right, so that's basically it for today. Good luck and be careful this week. I think there's going to be some volatility and funny business. So hey, if you guys like this video, click the thumbs up, and if you're not a subscriber to this video channel, please subscribe, and you'll be kept informed and be notified of when I post the next video. Thank you for watching.